And joining us now here in studio, Tony Award winner, Emmy Award winner, Nellie Award winner, star on Canada's Walk of Fame, wearing his Order of Canada, Sir Martin Short.
Nice to see you.
How's that for an intro?
Except that it's not Canada's Walk of Fame.
No?
Canada's Got Talent.
No, the Walk of Fame. You got a star on the Walk of Fame.
Oh, I have 2 stars.
2 stars.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to shortchange you.
Yeah.
Yes, but I know your show, Canada's Got Talent, of course.
2 stars, one for SCTV and one for just...
One for just being who you are.
Just being who I am.
And despite that whole intro, we're actually not going to talk about your show business career for quite a while yet.
What?
No, because I want to talk to you about the fact that not too long ago, you went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington, and you got to hang out with some, luminaries in the American political scene. So I want to start there. What's got you so interested in American politics?
Well, I made a great faux pas. My greatest faux pas that night was that Richard Kind, the actor, was there, and I'd seen him earlier, and then at the post-Vanity Fair party at the French embassy, he's standing there and talking to people, and I go up behind him and I go, "Oh, someone's gained a little weight," and it turns around, it's David Axelrod.
Obama's senior advisor.
Yeah.
Do you know him at all?
I'd never met him.
So not well enough to do that to him.
I don't think at any time I could have grown up with him and not done it to him. Okay. Well, I hold 4 passports. I'm born and raised in Canada, of course. I am Canada's own. And then, but my principal residency has been the United States since the mid-'80s.
Right.
I'm an American citizen as well.
Mm-hmm.
I hold a passport to the United Kingdom because my father was born in Northern Ireland. And my grandfather was born in Ireland, Republic. So I have 4 passports.
Now, are you as involved in Irish politics as you are in American politics?
No.
No.
Well, because I live in the United States of America, and let's face it, American politics is fascinating.
It is. But what turned you on in particular?
Oh, I was one of these kids that grew up in Hamilton just watching American television. Nothing against TVO or your illustrious career. But I remember I would write in my diary. I kept a diary. From the day Jack Kennedy was shot, I started a diary, I was 13. So, former Vice President John Nance Garner is still ill. I would keep track of...
You're a bit of a nerd on this stuff.
I love it, yeah.
Okay, but you weren't into Canadian politics when you were up here, right? I don't recall you being.
Well, John Diefenbaker and Lester Pearson. We had a prime minister with a lisp.
Yes.
I remember one time he did a whole address and it kept in a chair, kept squeaking. I thought, squeaking chair with a lisp. But I love these guys. I love Trudeau. I was fascinated. But there's something, that's a soap opera of the United States of America.
It really is.
You can only have Newt Gingrich in the United States of America. It's massive. And
so you like the bigness of it. The importance of it appeals to you.
I think it's just, to me, fascinating. And there's also so much kind of injustice, that happens in the political scene, more so than here, I think.
Like what?
Well, there's, Bill Maher will talk about the bubble that the Republicans live in. But it basically is this idea that in Canada, you'll vote Liberal, or you'll maybe say, you know what, this time I think the Conservatives are interesting. It's not like a football team. It's not like Notre Dame versus USC. That's what it is in the United States. So you cannot get a Republican to acknowledge that maybe George W. Bush was not the smartest guy in the world. They'll say, what do you mean? Now, at 3 in the morning, they're whispering to their wives, I know he's dumb, isn't he? He is dumb. Shh. Okay, the fear of the truth, So when Sarah Palin, you couldn't get a GOPer to really acknowledge what they thought.
You're a Democrat.
I am.
When did you become a Democrat?
Oh, I'm an Irish Catholic boy. Born, raised, liberal Canadian, Democrat, card-carrying. It's just the way it is.
Okay, but you weren't a card-carrying liberal when you lived up here.
Yes, always.
You were.
Mm-hmm.
So when you moved to the States, it was just kind of a given.
Yes. I just find the other side to be. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. I have Republican friends. I hate that, it's so polarized in the United States now that often it's like religion. It really is, so that people are afraid to bring it up at dinner parties. And I have very good friends who are Republicans.
Like who?
Dennis Miller, very good friend of mine.
Yeah,
Carolyn
right.
Miller, very dear friend. And we just kind of don't talk about it. Or we'll talk about it a little bit, but don't go too deeply into it. Because I don't understand. I'm always striving to have that conversation with a deeply, deeply informed Republican who could maybe make me rethink some thoughts.
Is Miller one of those guys?
Who?
Dennis?
Well, Dennis is very bright. He's a genius, but he's also in comedy. So he'll do, you'll say, well, Dennis, global warming. I don't know, Montesino's pretty attractive. I don't see the problem. He's in comedy, and so is Bill. But I'm talking about I once asked Bobby Kennedy Jr., who's a friend of mine, who's that Republican I could sit down and leave that dinner and be swayed? And he said, maybe John Warner, former senator from Virginia. And then a year later, I mentioned that to Bobby, and he said, I never said that. I must have been insane. You don't want to talk. There's no one, so.
This is funny that you describe John Warner as a former senator from Virginia,
Yeah.
rather than a former husband of Elizabeth Taylor.
Well, that's, we all know that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I want to get a better understanding of how deep your sort of commitment to the Democrats goes. Do you endorse candidates?
Yes, I will. Well, I will get involved in fundraisers and things like that.
So you will have fundraisers for
Yes,
them?
I hosted a thing for 6 senators who are all running for the Senate in 2008.
At your home?
No, I did it at Big Agent's house. I was the MC. I got Diane Keaton to sing "God Bless America."
Okay.
She was terrified. She'd never, she doesn't sing publicly, and she was real nervous. And I'll do it. Yeah. And then the first person she ran into, kind of the pre-reception, was Barbara Streisand. She said, "Hey man, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm going to sing in front of her?
I can't do it. I said, "You have to do it." Okay. Yeah.
You give money to candidates, obviously?
I do.
Yeah. And of the 6 that you hosted for, do you know how many of them won?
Quite a few. Al Franken. I can't remember all the names now.
Okay.
But Al Franken is an old friend.
Do candidates or their staff call you up and say, Martin, we need your help?
Yes, when it becomes, fundraiser, Bill Clinton's turning blank, would you do the MC of this year?
Okay. And you like this?
Do I like it? I mean, it's what I do for a living. I don't like any of it really, because it's work and it's hard work. It's not like when you introduce someone, you have to do a show, which means you have to write and all that stuff.
Prepare.
But I think it's important. I think I don't know how you can not support health care. I don't know how you cannot acknowledge that there's climate change. Some of these issues are so, the interesting thing about the Republican Party is that when I was a kid, they represented, if you had money, you'd give it to the Republicans. If you wanted to buy pot, you would, seek out the Democrats. It's now become a different world. It's a different world. The Republican Party never represented lack of appreciation of science. That was always the Dwight Eisenhower. Richard Nixon might have been a crook, but you knew he was smart. But then there was this shift that happened. And the shift was tied to, we want someone at the barbecue who we'd have a beer with, but he doesn't have to be the brightest guy. Mm-hmm. And then that, oh, you don't support our war in Iraq, France, so we're not going to drink your wine. We're going to call them freedom fries. I guess kind of silliness. And it continued, culminating in Sarah Palin, which was absolute hysterical madness, And you still have, Rick Santorum. I mean, this is like, even Mel Gibson's father would say he's a crazy Catholic. This is, every time you want a primary, a puff of white smoke would go. I mean, there's Catholic and there's Rick Santorum.
Okay. Well, one of the other culminations of all of that has been this Occupy movement and the 99% versus the 1% and all of that. Mm-hmm. What do you make of that phenomenon?
I don't understand it very well. I don't understand the Occupy movement. I mean, I understand the concept of it, but I don't I don't know enough about it, I guess, to comment, but I think that they're missing a central message. I mean, yes, there is 99%. It's a democratic country. People are going to be rich, and it's not a socialist country. And no one wants it to be a socialist country.
Even after 3.5 years of Obama, it's not a socialist dictatorship.
Yeah, he's that socialist. What did Newt Gingrich called him? The most radical left-wing man in the history of the presidency. This is excluding FDR. And then you say, what has he done? It's just because that approach, Gingrich, is just, if I say it, therefore it is. I can just say whatever I want. Well, and he'll rise again, you know. Like the sourdough he seems to be made of. He will rise again. You cannot get rid of that guy.
I'm going to come full circle because we started this by saying that you were at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yes.
And you met the president there.
Yes, I'd met him before, but...
How'd that happen? At the Correspondents' Dinner? Like, how'd you meet him?
He's at the head table, and you kind of... Jimmy Kimmel, I'd say little Jimmy, and then Mr. President, and he went, "It's raining men, hallelujah."
He said that to you?
Yeah, he started
singing to you.
David Axelrod did too, yeah.
It's raining Mitt.
Yeah.
So he knew who you were?
Yeah, yes. He was a big fan of my early stuff.
Well, for those of our viewers who don't know what you're talking about right now, we're going to remind them. Here's you on the Letterman Show. It's raining Mitt. Roll tape, please.
Rick Santorum's gone post-mortem, 'cause it's gonna start raining Mitt. It's raining Mitt. Holy heck, everyone needs a hit of Mitt. Under Romney, there's a future in sight, where all our trees are the right height. It's raining Mitt. Want a wager? I'll make you a $10,000 bet. So white, rich and fit, it's storming for our moment Mitt.
The president's actually seen that.
Yes. Well, I think it was put on the Democratic website. David Axelrod was a fan of it too.
Now, what don't you like about Mitt Romney?
Oh, he's a hilarious character. I don't dislike any of these guys. I've never met Mitt Romney, but this is, this is the whitest. Charlie Sheen tried to snort him. That's how white he is. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Try the beef.
You think he'd make a bad president?
I don't know what he stands for. He will say anything to any group to get their vote. I don't trust that kind of guy.
Huh.
I understand that you campaign on your beliefs, and then you become, as Obama said, not the president of the blue states, but the president of the United States. So you have to govern from the middle because the country's so divided in such a wide range of thoughts.
Aren't there a lot of Republicans who fear that that's exactly what Romney would do if he won? That he's not a true conservative, he would move to the middle?
But then no one has a right to feel that because they aren't the president of 5 states or 12 red states or 12 blue states. They're the president of the United States. They have to take everyone's opinion and say, well, I'd love it to be here, but I guess I have to be in the middle because you're president, you know.
Does this president deserve re-election?
Yes.
How come?
I think that he's first of all, brought intelligence back to the office. A lot of it is show business, Jack Kennedy is a revered president, but he also looked like a movie star and had a great way of speaking. And so I think Obama, just from the show business thing, he's a great performer. You see him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He does a killer stand-up.
He did, didn't he?
But I also think that he was handed the most insane period of economic time since 1929, and this assumption of how come he didn't fix it, how come it's not all, there's not one, I don't know anything, I'm just a comedian, but if you listen to Warren Buffett or the people who seem to know, Klugman, they'll say the same thing. This was not an easy fix, and he probably should have gone way more into debt, to fix it properly. He's not allowed to. So I think that what's been accomplished in 4 years has been remarkable.
I'm not a joke teller, but Jimmy Kimmel did have a joke that I'm going to try to remember that night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where he said they were having a discussion, the Republicans and the Democrats, about where to hold this event. The Republicans wanted to hold it at the Hilton. The Democrats wanted it somewhere else, so they decided to compromise, and that's why it's at the Hilton.
Well, you know.
The suggestion being that your party's made up of a bunch of wimps who bend over too much.
Well, the argument would be the other side is utterly going to do anything to bring down this president, and that was their agenda from day one. And sometimes you'd like to think that the country would be put first, not the party. It's a radical idea, I know.
Martin Short.
Yes, sir.
Would you ever run for office in the States?
No.
That was a long pause before you got to know.
No, because that wasn't about that. I was thinking, why wouldn't I run for office in Canada? I'd speak with a Bostonian accent like Kenny, though. I believe that Hamilton is a place that can... So probably get me in trouble.
But not in the States? You don't think so?
No, I don't want to run for office. I would rather satirize it. I don't... You have to... There's a lot of T's you have to go to. It's all fundraising.
Yeah.
That's the horror of politics.
But there is a lineup of people who want the job. It's an important job. You can do a lot of stuff with the job.
It is, but 90% of your time is fundraising for your re-election, the second you're elected. And that would be off-putting, I think.
Can I read a little list for you here?
Sure.
President Ronald Reagan, Senator Fred Thompson, Senator Al Franken, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, Governor Jesse Ventura, Representative Sonny Bono, Representative Fred Grandy, Mayor Clint Eastwood. There have been people from show business go into politics.
I was honorary mayor of Pacific Palisades.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you have to run for that?
I didn't. I was always asked, since I moved there in the 80s, and I would always say, well, sure. They said, well, the big thing is you have to be in our July 4th parade. I said, well, no, I have a cottage in Canada, so I can't do that. Oh, okay, no problem. And then they'd forget, and 4 years later they'd say, hey, would you like to be mayor? And I'd say, well, I can't be there on July 4th. Oh, well, then forget it. Then they had run a, I think I would play Steve Gutenberg, and I said I can't be there on July 4th. They said, don't worry about it. It's okay. So I was, there was a ceremony, and I gave a whole speech like Eichmann and I in Berlin. People say in the Pacific Palisades you can't find an overpriced pair of running shoes. Let them come to Benton's Sports Good, Eichmann, and kind of 10% played. The rest.
What's he talking about?
What was he talking about?
But have you talked to Al Franken since he got the job?
Yeah.
And?
He's fascinated, he's riveted, he's involved, and he wants to change the world.
Did he ever say, Martin, you really got to try this sometime?
No, he didn't.
He never did?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
There's too many, you don't want to see me running.
Are you kidding? That would be hysterical.
Well, it'd be hysterical, and then bring back Palin. I don't mean Michael.
Okay. Oh, Tina laughed at that one. That was good.
Yeah.
Okay. Martin, as we know...
By the way, there's 400 people in the audience here. I'm just not playing.
No, there are not.
Okay.
There are 4, and that's
Okay.
about it. Yeah. Let's talk a little show business now, because you have had I think out of anybody I know in show business, you've had the most remarkably eclectic career. Mm-hmm. You've done, and you've added a new sort of arrow to the quiver now with this reality show that you're doing, Canada's Got Talent. Having done absolutely everything else under the sun, what made you want to do this one?
Well, I wouldn't call Canada's Got Talent a reality show. I'd call it the Ed Sullivan Show. I'd call it a return to a variety, true variety television, where you can have a juggler followed by an opera singer, which when I was a kid, the most popular show on TV was Sunday nights at 8 p.m. It was the Ed Sullivan Show, and Ed would have, the Beatles, and then there'd be, Topo Gigio, a little puppet, and then Jerry Lewis would come. And so you couldn't look away. It was constantly fascinating. I think this show, a reality show to me, is like the Kardashians. That's
okay,
reality.
so I used the wrong word, but you know what I mean. It's unscripted. It's just...
It's unscripted, but so is appearing on the Letterman show, so,
Okay. Should we answer the question then? The show's called Canada's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Does it? Does Canada have talent?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I'd love you to just watch it sometime and see.
Now I'm hurt.
Mr. McMahon.
Now I'm hurt. Yeah. I've seen every episode of it.
I know you have.
And you were good enough to invite me
what
last
I meant to
week.
say is get a life.
Yeah. Not only that, I went to it once to watch it being done.
Yes, you did.
And the night that I went, I wouldn't say Canada had an abundance of talent that night.
That was not the strongest week, and that's just kind of, you know, luck of the draw. And a lot of people choke. It's nerve-wracking. To be on live television, you know, it's, you know, I remember one time I was interviewing Ed McMahon, and as a joke, this is like 2000, and I said, Ed, are you nervous? And he went, oh, no. So he, you know, when you're on live television every night for 30 years, you get used to it. These people have never been on television. Some, you know, 15 years of age and they're singing. I would be forgetting lyrics.
She was incredible.
Yeah.
That Marianne Demers.
Yeah.
She was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
She had talent.
Yeah. And so you kind of go, but wait a second, wouldn't you could have great talent, but, you know, that Jackie Gleason thing.
You talked about the Letterman show a second ago, and I want to sort of dig a little deeper on this, because when you come on and do Dave's show, you always do this kind of very elaborate song and dance routine that looks like it took months of planning, writing, scripting, choreography, you know, rehearsals and all that kind of thing. I want to show a little tape of something you did, I think it was actually a year ago this month. Might have been a year ago last month. And then we'll talk about how this all comes together, okay?
All right.
Roll tape, please.
Goodbye, Al-Qaeda's rose. To the world you were mad. And to your kids and 22 wives, you were also a deadbeat dad. $1 million bounty placed on your head. You were wanted dead or alive, but in the end, we went with dead.
That is absolutely hilarious. In the end, we went with Dead. How does that come together?
It comes together, it first started when Dave moved from his NBC show to the CBS show. I was on the first week. And as I'm flying from Toronto, I was at the cottage, to do the show, I thought, I should sing a song, Broadway is a Lady, because I'd just done a Broadway show. And I phoned up, I think from the plane then, they had those phones, you know, thing. And I phoned and said, hey, what about this idea? And oh, great, and we'll get the band. I spoke to Paul, fabulous, how we can do that, I know that. So how do you see it? And I sing it on the plane to him. And then I thought, oh, great, that means that I only have to do 1.5 segment, think of what I'm gonna do, because I have, then the next time I did the show, they said, you could do a song?
So they asked you this time.
Sure. Okay, what song? And then I realized they were adding a segment. I thought, wait a second, this is a cheat, this is bad. So, but through the years, I've always, since about the mid-90s, I've worked with this guy, Matt Roberts, who's now the executive producer of the show. And he does most of the work. He's like a genius boy. And, but basically, you know, Paul will send me a CD, and he'll have sung it, and I will listen to it, and then, but there's just a rehearsal that day.
There was a rehearsal that day,
Yeah.
and that's it.
That's it. That's it.
How does it, well, I guess that's what talent is, eh? It comes off so
Well,
well.
I mean,
when
you know, you get used to where the card's going to be because you don't have it memorized. There was one very elaborate, after David had his heart attack, we did, bypass, you really kicked ass, you know. Under anesthesia when they dickered with your ticker in the hopes that your heart would go on. That had a 50 chorus in it. We did rehearse the day before that one.
Gosh. Martin, I want to show you a picture, and then you're going to tell us all who's in the picture.
All right.
Look up behind me here. Can we bring this one up, please? I get asked so many times over the years, how do you know Martin Short?
Yeah, well, on the left is a guy named Sam Paikin, your grandfather.
Correct.
And on the right is my father, Charles Patrick Short. And in the middle, I think, is a friend of Sal Minio's. I don't know who that guy is. What is it? Grossinger? Is it Grossinger?
Grossinger's, yeah, in the Catskills.
In the Catskills.
Yeah.
And they were having a grand time. They were, Stephen's grandparents and my parents were very close friends. And they lived around the corner in Hamilton, Whitten Road, Mayfair. And I remember they would wander over Friday nights and they would play cards and they'd laugh and they'd drink. One time your grandmother just went upstairs and woke me up because she had to, because I was so damn cute at 5. One time I went over to your grandmother's house for just a luncheon, Anne and myself. I was about 6. And I remember I was so amazed because it was Friday and the condition of the TV guide was pristine, as opposed to my house with 5 kids that just ripped to shreds, you know.
Huh. You, I gotta say, when your hometown comes calling, you answer the bell. I mean, the Ticats were in a lot of trouble many years ago, and you got some memorabilia from your friends
I did.
in Hollywood, brought it off, auctioned it off. I bought Johnny Carson's cup.
You
That
did,
was
I know.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
Johnny
pretty
Carson's
cool.
autographed mug.
Yeah.
And raised a lot of
No,
money.
I called in the favors on that one.
And you saved the football team. And now, I gather, June 21st, you're going to do a benefit for the Hamilton Philharmonic Orchestra?
Yes. Well, you know, it's very dear, of course, your parents deeply involved in that, and they're involved in that benefit, by the way, Marnie and Larry Paikin. But my mother was the first female concertmaster of any symphony in North America. But she was a concert mistress of the Hamilton Philharmonic. I want to say from 48 to 62 or something. And my father was the president for a couple of years. So I grew up with that in my psyche.
That's terrific that you answer the bell still all these years later.
How do you not answer the bell?
Well, I think lots of people don't. So,
Well, shame on them.
shame on them.
Yeah.
One last thing. This stage of your career, I mean, from what I can tell, you're doing a TV show here, you do a stage play here, you do a musical, you do a Vegas type show, you're doing movies, you're doing everything. Do you ever just want to sort of stop and say, you know what, I'm just going to get a job, one job, and enough of all of these different things?
That
No?
wouldn't appeal to me.
No?
No. I like the eclectic nature of it. I've always liked the eclectic nature of it. You know, Canadian actors are like the British, and they do all mediums. And what's great is that you work all the time, and you don't get bored. I mean, I think that, you know, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I think at a certain point, you're no longer trying to figure out how do I get the rent covered. It's even worse. You're trying to figure out how to stay interested. And I find the eclectic nature of doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, you know. So rather than be on How I Met Your Mother, I wouldn't want to be a regular, but to do an arc of 4 shows, fantastic. Interesting, or to, so that's what I prefer. And you know, I think the exit's as hip as the entrance. So you have to, you know, I'm 62, I'm approaching that time where, excuse me while I disappear. When do you do it? I don't know.
Not for a long time, I hope, I
Well,
think.
Not tomorrow. But, you know, who wants to see old crepey Marty sitting there playing the neighbor on the new Roseanne show? I don't want to see that.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I would have been happy to see Johnny Carson last another 10 years.
Well, that's true. You
And I
love
would be-
Johnny more than life.
And you did the Carson show how many times?
I think 8, 9.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Wonderful. I can't thank you enough for doing this. This was a
Stephen,
delight.
I've known you your whole life.
You have.
You were an adorable little boy. You went through a tough period in your teens and moody in your
didn't.
20s. What?
No, I did not.
Oh, I'm
I
thinking
was a
of who am I
perfect
thinking?
child.
Oh, I'm thinking of Ref.
Thinking of my brother.
Yeah.
This was just great of you to do.
I would go up to, let me just say, I'd go up to your parents' house for my Ryan Ginger. And they would be, he and his brother, Jeffrey, were playing road hockey. They go, Jordy.
All true.
Yeah.
Canada's Got Talent, and so do you, sir.
Oh, so do you, sir.
Thank you for being here.
You know, my pleasure. And thanks, by the way, I had to beg to get on the show. I had to send tape in. Unbelievable.
Well, you know, we have pretty high standards here.
No, I understand. I've seen some of the shows.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.